On November 27, 2019, Lao Rongzhi, a wanted criminal who took 7 lives across 3 cities from 1996 to 1999, was identified at a mall using surveillance camera footage and facial recognition with a 97.33% match. Little did she know that her 20 years of life on the run was about to come to an end. What exactly happened to her? Let's open up this story and find out. Lao Rongzhi, who we refer to as Lao, was born in 1974 in Zhejiang City, Jiangxi Province of China, the youngest of 5 children. At the age of 15, she attended a vocational school that offered a program once a year. These students were selected based on looks, figures, and personalities. She graduated in 1992, becoming an elementary school teacher. In 1993, at a friend's wedding, Lao met Fa Ziying, who was 10 years older. Fa came from a poor family and was the youngest of 7 children. He had been previously married and had a daughter. He had a history of multiple prison sentences starting from the age of 15. At age 15, he lost his father, and later he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for robbery and battery. At the time Lao was a teacher, her monthly income was 300 RMB, approximately $55, which was average income. After getting together with Fa, they spent around 200 RMB daily, and this money came from Fa's illegal activities. Her parents were upset about her dating him. She even argued with her mother over it. In 1996, he stabbed someone during a gang fight, leading the couple to flee from their home city. They went to cities like Shenzhen, Hangzhou, then started making big and quick bucks by a scam named Xian Ren Tiao. The scam involves enticing wealthy men to hotel rooms where the outraged husband or boyfriend is there threatened for money. They extorted approximately $8,000 from each successful heist. After each crime, Fa instructed Lao to leave with the money and meet back up at the local hospital. In May 1996, Fa and Lao arrived in Nanchang, the capital city of their home province. On June 2nd, they rented a room, and she worked as a hostess at a nightclub using a false ID. Back in that area, Chinese nightclubs are quite different from modern nightclubs. Their services included karaoke, bars, and dance performances, and some even offered bathing and sauna facilities. The hostesses working there were all managed under a unified system. They were usually lined up in karaoke rooms for customers to choose from, and then accompany them for drinking and singing, often involving further physical contact. Some hostesses would engage in more intimate activities. Many of the nightclub guests would either entertain their clients or be the clients themselves, usually with a certain level of financial stability. Female customers were usually quite rare. During that time, she targeted a 35-year-old man, Mr. Xiong, an owner of an electronics company. On the morning of July 28, Lao called him up to the rental room. Once he entered, Fa immediately threatened him with a knife, tied him up with ropes and belts, and robbed him of his watch, jewelry, and other valuables, forcing him to reveal his home address. Later that day, Fa strangled Mr. Xiong with wire and ropes, causing him suffocate to death. Afterward, Fa dismembered his body, divided into 4 bags, and brought it with them to the victim's home later that night. Lao remanded Fa to cut the telephone wire, even the neighbors. Fa used the stolen keys and barged in the door, threatened the victim's wife, and demanded her to hand over money. After taking approximately $3,600, Fa strangled both victims' wife and their 3-year-old daughter. By this time, Fa had completely lost his sanity. Despite having a 6-year-old daughter of his own, he showed no humanity towards a 3-year-old girl. Soon the investigators got a lot of evidence to prove they were the criminals. Then an arrest warrant was issued. In early October 1997, Fa and Lao arrived in Wenzhou City, Zhejiang Province. They stayed in separate guest houses to avoid detection. Lao planned to carry out a similar plan of luring victims again. While discussing renting a house with a 20-year-old woman, Miss Liang, Lao noticed she was wearing an Omega watch and assumed she was wealthy. In reality, Miss Liang also worked at nightclubs. On October 10, 1997, Fa and Lao went to Miss Liang's place. They only robbed a small amount of cash. Unsatisfied, Fa forced Miss Liang to call a wealthy person to come over. Miss Liang tricked a girl, Miss Liu, and Fa robbed money and her debit card. After Lao withdrew money from the bank, Fa brutally choked both girls to death and stole their watches, cell phones, and pagers. They killed people just 3 days after they arrived in Wenzhou City. They've gone beyond the regular xian ren tiao scam. They don't care about the valuable things the victims have on them. They've turned to kidnapping, extortion, and even murder. When the victim has no money or their family isn't around, they exploit the fear to make them deceive other innocent people. In late June 1999, they fled to Hefei City, Anhui Province, where they used false IDs to rent an apartment and Lao got another job as a hostess. Soon, Lao noticed a man, Miss Ying, a CEO of an electrical company, giving out several packs of Zhonghua cigarettes to others and bragging about his business at the nightclub, and assumed he was wealthy. In Chinese society, Zhonghua cigarettes are considered a luxury item among smokers. They are affordable only for wealthy people, and many businessmen use them as gifts for clients and government officials. Mr. Yin had left his job in the 90s to start his own business and pretended to be rich in social circles for the sake of his company's business. On the morning of July 22nd, after Mr. Yin walked in the rental apartment, Fa bound his hands and feet, stripped him naked, wrapped a wire around his neck, and locked him inside a 1 by 1 by 0.7 meter iron animal cage that Fa made before. Mr. Yin claimed he had only a few thousand RMB and needed to call his friends to borrow some money. With little talk, Fa sensed that Mr. Yin wasn't scared of him and decided to leave for a while to make him believe he was a real kidnapper. Fa went to market to get a carpenter, Mr. Lu. As soon as Mr. Lu entered the house, he saw the person inside the cage and tried to escape, but was threatened at knife point by Fa. Fa then killed Mr. Lu in front of Mr. Yin by stabbing him, beheading him, dismembering his body, and stored it in the freezer that Lao bought before. Mr. Yin was terrified and blurted out that he could get approximately $36,000 and immediately called his wife to gather the money. He wrote 2 notes, promising to bring the money the next morning. On the morning of July 23rd, before leaving, Fa instructed Lao that if he didn't return by midnight, he would have been arrested. She should kill Mr. Yin by tightening the vise around the back of his neck with the tiger wrench and ran as fast as she could. Fa took a self-made revolver and went to Mr. Yin's home. Mr. Yin's wife said she could get only $12,000 and had to go pick it up. Surprisingly, Fa allowed and gave her half an hour to get the money. The fact was, $12,000 is too much for Mr. Yin's wife. If it were $5,000, she could borrow some from relatives and friends. She didn't know what to do, so she went to her workplace and told her supervisor, who advised her to report the police right away. The police quickly surrounded Mr. Yin's home, and Fa realized that he was cornered. He used a box as a shield and confronted the police. He even taunted the photographer, saying, "Hey, camera guy, having fun?" Life and death became a reel in the blink of an eye. The police wanted to catch him alive, but their attempts to talk to him down failed. They decided to use tear gas to flush him out of the room. To prevent him from shooting wildly upon escaping, they planned to shoot him in the leg. Eventually, they successfully captured him. The police officer Shen Zhao, who participated in capturing Fa, received commendation for his efforts. However, 6 years later in 2005, shortly after his promotion, he was arrested for bribery and sentenced to 1 year in prison. After being arrested, Fa refused to reveal Lao's location and the hostage's fate. It wasn't until 7 days later, the neighbors reported a foul smell coming from the room. The police discovered the bodies of Mr. Yin inside the cage and Mr. Lu inside the freezer. In the past, there were cases of victims escaping. This time, Fa deliberately prepared an iron cage, and Lao was seen by witnesses buying the freezer personally. If the initial act seemed like a rage killing to silence someone, this time is definitely premeditated. Seeing that getting money from Mr. Yin wasn't easy, Fa, driven by madness, went to market and deceived Mr. Lu, who was struggling at the bottom of society, by claiming that his house needed window repairs. Mr. Lu, with no stable job, he was hustling to support his family and 70-year-old mother. Tragically, he was cruelly murdered, treated by Fa as nothing more than a tool. During the interrogation, Fa initially claimed Mr. Yin was still alive when he left the room, but later he changed his statement during the court trial, admitting he killed Mr. Yin before leaving. He claimed sole responsibility for all the crimes that said Lao was not involved in any of them. Fa was sentenced to death on November 18, 1999, for kidnapping, intentional murder, and robbery. He did not appeal and was executed 1 month later by firing squad on December 28, 1999. Fa has all the typical traits of sociopath: a lack of empathy, impulsiveness, outrageous behavior, low frustration tolerance, and a tendency to blame others. He showed no guilt towards the victim's family, but surprisingly, he protected Lao after being caught. Over the next 20 years, Lao went to on the run, changing her ID constantly and living in various cities. She claimed to have stayed in guest houses or lived with different men who supported her financially. It's reported that she started living in Xiamen City, Fujian Province since 2016. In June, she worked as a hostess girl at True Love Bar, earning commission from customer spending. She used the English name by Sherry. Her colleagues described her as skilled at makeup, had a gentle personality, and being hardworking. She earned around $2,000 in commission per month, which placed her among the higher-earning staff at the bar. After about 6 months, she left True Love Bar in early 2017 for unknown reasons. Later, she worked at a car dealership. Even after breaking up with her boyfriend, she was allowed to stay in his house for free. She then entered into a relationship with a man she met at True Love Bar who ran a watch shop in a shopping mall. During 3 years' crime spree, Lao charmed many men with her beauty and flirty attitude. For the entire 20 years on the run, she lived in big cities, got some cosmetic work done, dressed stylishly, learned to play the piano and paint, switched jobs and boyfriends, and even had a dog. People saw her as a cool, humble, and enigmatic woman. She had a strong sense of pride, always aiming to be better than others, and took favors and money from guys for granted. In 2019, she helped out her boyfriend to watch the watch shop while he is away for a few days. While Lau active in the shopping mall where the watch shop was located, surveillance cameras captured her pictures. These surveillance devices have facial recognition technology, so the police in Xiamen matched her photo with a 97.33% similarity to the wanted suspect Lau. China's recognition technology is advancing rapidly, and the surveillance networks are widespread and dense. Especially during the pandemic, QR code scanning is required to enter places like schools, companies, restaurants, hotels, stores, parks, and even public restrooms. Some people got locked up in public restroom after system recognized they have been to risky place. This extensive monitoring has had a significant impact on the lives of many wanted men, leading them to surrender to the authorities. Using fake ID in China now comes with substantial risks, as there have been several instances where wanted criminals were arrested at concerts of well-known singers through facial recognition systems. The recognition system can identify not only faces, but also walking postures, even when people are wearing masks or hats. The recognized individuals can be linked to their IDs, tracking their past week's movements, matching them with vehicles, family relationships, and people they frequently interact with. I believe Saul Goodman would get busted in a mall in China within a few days. Lau was arrested at the shopping mall on November 27. She didn't show any signs of fear or panic, and even flashed an enticing smile while taking photos at the police station. At first, she denied being Lau, but after a DNA comparison confirmed her identity, she finally admitted it. During the first trial in December 2019, the prosecutor accused Lau of intentional killing 1 people, kidnapping 2 people, and robbing 5 people. Lau denied some charges but admitted to robbery and kidnapping. She claimed to be inherently kind, saying she had never ever dared to harm animals, arguing that she was coerced by Fa. She described herself as a victim of Fa's sexual abuse and exploitation, claiming he forced her to work as a tool to make money. She claimed Fa has physically and mentally tortured her, causing several injuries such as a concave head and stitched lips, and her body was covered in bruises. She wanted to break up with Fa, but he threatened to harm her family if she did. During the time together, she had 2 abortions due to Fa's coercion. She expressed happiness at seeing Fa being executed on television. When the prosecutor showed her crime scene photos, she screamed, saying the scenes were horrifying. In court, she apologized to the victim's family and expressed the willingness to compensate, but she only has approximately $5,000 in savings. She hopes to raise funds through crowdfunding. It was nothing that during Fa's 1999 trial. He first said Mr. Yin was alive when he left, but later in court, he changed his statement, claiming he killed him before leaving. One of the notes that Fa brought to Mr. Yin's wife wrote, "I'll be dead if I'm 1 cent short. His accomplice will make sure I die even faster than the guy earlier." This note was identified by handwriting experts to be written by Lau. Surviving victims of previous kidnapping described the couple as quiet, efficient with clear roles, and perfect coordination in their actions. In the first trial in September 2021, Lau was found guilty of intentional homicide, robbery, and kidnapping, was sentenced to death. Lau appealed right after. On August 18, 2022, The trial lasted 3 days, maintaining the death sentence. The death penalty verdict was then submitted to the Supreme Court for final approval. Fa was executed just 1 month after the verdict. In the 1980s, China was in a period of intense crackdowns, and some executions occurred as quickly as 3 days after sentencing. After the year 2000, there were some executions that took place within a month. What will be her fate? Only time will tell us the answer. Do you think Lao should be sentenced to the death penalty? What is the situation like this in your country or region? I've noticed that this case has been covered in multiple languages on YouTube. One correction I need to make is that a certain photo of Lao is actually incorrect. The person in the photo is not Lao. She is also a fugitive who has been on the run for many years. If you are interested in her story, please leave a comment below, and I will make a video to tell you who she really is. Thank you for letting me tell you this story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel,